Morning. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Time for the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, here with Diana Pardee on tech. Every Wednesday morning, the Southern California Writers Association turns our Facebook page over to a new author, or in this case, a returning author, to talk about their books and their work. This morning, we are pleased to welcome back Greta Boris. Greta is the USA Today Bestselling author of the 7 Deadly Sins Murders, a psychological suspense series, and her new series, The Mortician Murders, a cozy paranormal series. She hails from sunny SoCal, where based on her books, which are all set there, things are darker than you'd expect. I heard somewhere that, we were talking about LA as a setting, and they were like, even in sunshine, you have shadows.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't you love that? Her
Right.
stories have been called atmospheric and unputdownable. To learn more, visit her at gretaboris.com and grab a free novella while you're there. She's also co-founder of Author Wheel, a company that creates book courses and a podcast to help writers keep their stories rolling, which we always need. So welcome back, Greta.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
So you are one busy person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overly these days. I'm like, yeah.
Aside from your new familial extension.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Here's my mug. It says, "My favorite people call me Nana."
Aw.
No, I have an adorable grandson who's just so cute. It's ridiculous.
So you have to try and pull yourself away from him to complete all the responsibilities and goals that you have, which takes a tremendous amount of discipline. So that's my first question. So how are you dividing your time these days?
Well, if I knew that, no.
Or is it day by day or hour by hour?
Well, this is silly, but I started, and it's so obvious, but I started going to bed earlier and getting up earlier so that I have a little bit of time in the morning before the phone starts ringing and all the things start happening. And so I've been trying to get my writing in early. And then it's marching on different days to different things. I try to make sure I get some exercise every single day, because I think if you don't take care of your bod while you're doing all this stuff, you're just going to break down. But it's all fun and exciting, and so that makes it so much easier too, right? That you want to do it. So
well, not only that, what you write is so fun. It has to be fun writing it. So you have kind of transitioned from the 7 Deadly Sins, which were a little darker. The series, how many? Don't test me. 7 Deadly Sins.
Yeah,
There are 7 novels in the series.
You are brilliant. Now.
I am on it this morning.
How many cups of coffee did it take to come up with that math? I just heard a quote. It said 5 out of 4 authors are terrible at math. And if you get that.
Well, I did the calculation beforehand. So
I saw the wheels turning.
Right. So you've done that and then finished that series, which is doing great and is currently available on Amazon, right?
Everywhere. It's wide.
Oh.
That series is wide. And actually, the very first book in the series, which was titled A Margin of Lust, I rewrote it last year at my publisher's request. We're relaunching it as a margin, or no, the new title is The Liability of Lust, and she's going to be kind of relaunching the series with new covers and kind of a new vibe. And I'm excited about that because the first book, is my first book. And she suggested that we kind of update it a little bit. And when I looked through it, I was like, how did this ever get published? It was terrible. I thought it was terrible. So how much you change when you write a bunch of books. So I'm excited that series is relaunching, and that series is wide. It's Barnes & Noble, it's everywhere. All the books are still available except for the book 1, which is going to be republished in May.
That's under construction, right?
Under construction. Yeah, but the other books are still available in the series. Okay. And if you want the old covers instead of the new covers, you can check them out.
All right, so you are moving on. You have moved on to your next series.
Yes.
Yes, you've gone to ground, as they say,
Oh,
uh, with the Mortician series.
yes.
So, which is a great, I love the premise, love the character. So you've gone from writing a series to a series character, right?
Yes.
So that's an interesting transition. But let's talk about the books and then maybe we'll talk about that.
Okay, so here is book one. It's probably backwards, right, on the camera?
No, we can see it. It's perfect.
Okay, good. So the title is To Die For, and you can just tell by I have the most wonderful cover designer. Her name is Mariah Sinclair, and she is known as the queen of cozy covers. So she's amazing. She redid all my covers. And so you can tell it's a lot more humorous. I think during COVID, I was just like, oh, I need something funnier. And I'm not going to not have dead bodies in my books. That's just silly. You just got to have a dead body or two. So making dead bodies fun was a goal. And so I got this idea for a main character who is a hairstylist. She's kind of rockabilly, and she works in a hair salon that caters to what is the leisure world crowd, only I don't call it leisure world. And in the very first chapter of the very first book, she gets the request to do the hair and makeup for one of her favorite clients. The only hitch is the client is dead. And so she's doing the hair and makeup for her funeral. And so when she goes to the mortuary and she touches the hair of this dead woman, she gets this shock. And it takes her the course of the book to figure out that when she touches a dead person's hair, she gets their final sensations in life. And if they were murdered, that spirit will follow her around until they out the murderer and bring justice. So
Wow. So you have a justice-seeking ex-beautician turned mortician.
yes, by the end of the first book, she decides to go to mortuary school. And so I do have the novella that's available for free on my website, is called Mortuary School. And it's her adventure, because of course she has to have one when she goes to mortuary school. So, and there is a love interest. It's not a romance, but there's a love interest who shows up in the first book. He's the night watchman for the mortuary, and he's in online school to become, he wants to get into the police academy and become a cop and eventually a detective. It's his big goal. So they kind of partner up when they discover that her client's death, which just like her hair color, was not as natural as everyone thought. So, yeah.
All right. I'm in. I'm in
Yeah.
100%.
It's fun.
So it's interesting because I found out a lot of forensic investigators go to mortuary school first.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it moves them up in the consideration for forensic investigators. If you had mortuary school, if you've gone to or studied mortuary science. So there you go.
There's so many things. There's so many things to learn. It's fun. I had one reader, and I don't remember which book it was in, because I'm actually releasing book 4 next week. So I've been plowing along here. I had one reader say she never thought she would like a book series that was primarily set in a mortuary, but she loved it. And she said, believe it or not, I know it's silly, but it's making me feel less afraid of ending up in a mortuary one day. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So you're doing a public service, Greta.
Exactly.
And hopefully we don't all end up with an upsweep, in our final resting pose. Yeah.
Yes.
That scares me. Okay. So you've got the 2 series. And you have a podcast, and the podcast is related to Author Wheel. Do you want to talk a little bit about Author Wheel?
Sure. So the Author Wheel is my side hustle business that I do with Megan Haskell, who is an award-winning fantasy author. And so we have, it started as kind of a blog, and we were teaching courses live and then COVID happened. So we moved our courses online. Our first book I have right here, is publish, take charge of your author career. And since she was always independently published, and that was always her goal, and I was traditionally published, and that was always my goal, we kind of like talk about the pros and cons of both and the process of both, because it's two different paths and two different tactics for most of it. And then we moved on from there. We wrote 3 short guides for authors, one on managing your time and getting more words on the page, one on genre, understanding what genre is and genre expectations, and then one on how planning a novel. But this is not plotting. It's before you get into the nitty gritty of the story, but setting up your world, setting up your series Bibles. Is it a series book or just a single book? So we have those books, and we have some more courses now online. And then we started the podcast, which has been a huge blessing and so much fun. We're wrapping up our second season. We do a lot of interviews with people who have products and services for writers. So, you know, there's so many scammers out there these days willing to take advantage of writers, that we try to find people that we trust and interview them. So we've had editors and cover designer and a book narrator, and then people with some marketing programs. We just interviewed Claire Taylor. That episode's not live yet. In her book, Reclaim Your Author Career, where she goes into the Enneagram and how important it is to align author personality with what your series choices and your marketing choices and everything. So we are learning a ton. It's just been a lot of fun.
Well, and not only that, you recently started or are getting ready to launch your Kickstarter, right? Your Kickstarter.
Yes, we are. And that it came about too, because we interviewed Russell Nolte, who's like the king of Kickstarter, in our first season. And he has a Kickstarter accelerator program. And after we interviewed him and shut off the recording, we were both like, okay, where do we sign up? So we're doing that. And the Kickstarter page is not live yet, but it can be followed. But instead of kind of drawing people into that, because I know there's a lot of people who don't even know what Kickstarter is, which is hard to imagine after Brandon Sanderson's big coup on Kickstarter. Was it like 36 million? We're not aiming that high, but yeah.
Aim that high, fall a little short, that's okay.
Yeah. So, but we are launching a little celebratory free mini course that kind of feeds into all the things we're doing with the Kickstarter project. And it's 7 days to your author brand. And if I had done this work, this little mini course a long time ago, I think I would have been more clear about starting a new series, what kind of series to start. It's very much like understanding who you are as a writer and an author, so that you know which direction to go. Like, because we all get so many ideas. So should I write book A or book B? Because I have a book that I co-wrote with somebody that has never been published, and it's a good book, but it is not in my brand. So I don't know what the heck to do with the thing. So if it would have saved me a lot of time if I had gone through this little mini course to understand. And then it helps you distill a tagline for yourself too.
That's great. That's really helpful. And it's free. So
yes, totally free. Yeah.
Right. Nobody can argue it's free. So believe it or not, we are running out of time. I told you this would go fast.
Yes.
But we're going to go over a little bit, because now we were talking a little bit beforehand about your Charlaine Harris story.
Yes.
I still want to hear your Charlaine Harris story. So maybe we can finish up with that.
Okay, I'll tell it super fast. So this was when I was actually pitching the 7 Deadly Sins, the first book in the 7 Deadly Sins. And I went to Left Coast Crime, and Charlaine Harris was a keynote speaker.
So I'm going to jump in a minute. For those of you, we should have prefaced it. Charlaine Harris writes True Blood and the
Sookie Stackhouse series.
Sookie Stackhouse and the Tea Garden, What
Yeah,
stories?
Aurora Tea Garden.
Right, Aurora
Yeah.
Tea Garden. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
She's huge,
Huge.
big,
Right.
huge. Like one of her series got turned into a TV series.
Like she's
So
worth
she was-
$100 million. Huge. But go ahead.
Yeah. So she was the keynote speaker, and she was wonderful. And they had this thing called an author idol contest where you would put a group of pages into a bucket, and then you didn't even have to put your name on it. And then they had a panel of agents and editors up front, and then the narrator would draw out of the bucket, read it out loud, and the agents and the editors would raise their hand when they would have stopped reading. And so I put some pages in the bucket, and I was a nervous wreck, even though my name wasn't on it, nervous wreck. So we were like 20 deep in so far in this process. And so far, nobody's pages got read all the way through. Everybody's got their hands raised, and stopped. A couple of people walked out crying. It was just terrible. And I was like, why did I do this? And then in the middle of the whole thing, Charlene Harris walks in, and she sits down right in front of me with a friend of hers. And I'm like, oh no, she's going to hear my pages.
Absorbing. Yeah.
So anyway, sure enough, a few more times later, they pick up mine and they start reading. And I'm like sweating blood. And you could have heard a pin drop. Nobody said anything. They read it. It was all the way through. The agents and editors never said they would stop reading. And when they were done, the woman who was with Charlene Harris looked at her and she goes, that was good. They have Southern accents. And Charlene Harris goes, that was good. Anyway, that was on my wall. That was on my screensaver. That was everywhere. When I was pitching and I was getting all those no's and I was feeling like so discouraged, I just had everywhere. Charlene Harris said it was good. So that was my Charlene Harris story. And now I'm writing some stories sort of in the vein of some of Charlene Harris's work. So she's an inspiration.
I see what you did there in the vein of Charlene.
Yeah. Oh,
She writes,
I didn't even do that on purpose.
That's how you know what a great writer you are. You don't even think about it. You're funny and entertaining. So I think that's what people will find in your books. Thank you for being here. Best of luck on the series. Best of luck on the podcast. Best of luck on Kickstarter and Author Wheel. And we hope that we'll see you again soon. And yeah, so until next time, we will see everybody hopefully next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. right here on Facebook Live, the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, and I will see you soon. Bye.